Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining this iCADL 2025 session. My name is Michail Agathos from the Laboratory on Digital Libraries and Electronic Publishing, Department of Archives, Library Science and Museology at the Ionian University in Greece. Today, I will be presenting our work on modeling styles of vernacular architecture using CIDOC CRM, a semantic approach that aims to capture both the tangible and intangible dimensions of architectural heritage. CIDOC CRM is a well-established and continuously emerging reference model aiming to represent cultural heritage information and, of course, perceptions and notions associated to architecture history. Architecture, as a global discipline, encompasses a diverse range of styles and typologies shaped by cultural, historical, and environmental context. Within this expansive framework, vernacular architecture constitutes a distinct subset characterized by its responsiveness to local needs, materials, and traditions. Despite the comprehensive scope of the CIDOC CRM, vernacular architecture remains largely undocumented within its current framework, highlighting a gap in the representation of localized, culturally embedded architectural practices and logic systems. This observation led us to formulate two key research questions. First, can CIDOC-CRM and its derivative models effectively represent the specificities of vernacular architecture? And second, how can we semantically model both its tangible and intangible dimensions of vernacular architecture? These questions guide the approach we present today, combining semantic modeling, digital humanities methods, and heritage documentation practices. Throughout our discussion, we need to define what we mean by vernacular architecture and outline its main characteristics. Vernacular architecture refers to the built environment constructed using traditional methods and materials deeply rooted in local culture, climate, landscape, and available resources. Architect Paul Oliver, a major scholar of vernacular architecture, described it as the architecture of the people and by the people, but not for the people as customers or clients. Yards in Mongolia, bamboo houses in Southeast Asia, igloo in Central Arctic, the Baja Cubo, the cube house in the Philippine lowlands are some typical examples of vernacular architecture. In that sense, vernacular architecture isn't exactly a specific architectural style like Gothic, Baroque, or Modernism, which have specific aesthetic and design principles. Rather, it's more of an approach or type of architecture. It is also a subset of traditional architecture, which encompasses a wide range of architectural styles and techniques passed down through generations. While vernacular architecture constitutes a form of tangible cultural heritage, the knowledge systems, construction techniques, and cultural practices that inform and sustain it are integral components of intangible cultural heritage. In this study, we have proposed a CIDOC CRM-based semantic model intended to serve as a general framework for documenting and analyzing different expressions of vernacular architecture across regions and traditions. The model represents the formative context of vernacular architecture, constructional, morphological, and typological consistencies, interrelation among vernacular traditions, and relations between vernacular architecture and other built forms. As a case study informing the development and evaluation of our modeling approach, we use the Mongolian yard, an exemplary instance of vernacular architecture that embodies the dynamic interplay between environmental adaptation, sociocultural practices, and typological coherence. It is worth mentioning that the traditional knowledge and skills in making Kyrgyz and Kazakh yards was inscribed in 2014 on UNESCO's representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity. The formative context of vernacular architecture is rooted in the complex interplay between environmental conditions, microclimate, cultural practices, topography, available materials, and socioeconomic structure over an extended time span. Developed over generations, often across centuries, vernacular architecture reflects a long-term process of adaptation in response to localized environmental factors, particularly microclimatic conditions and the physical landscape. The first part of our model focuses on what we call the formative context of a vernacular architectural practices. As you can see, instances of a vernacular architectures are classified as E29 design or procedure. A vernacular architectural style may be known with various names, depending on the region or language, which are represented in CIDOC CRM as instances of the class E41 appellation. Alternative names or forms can also be included using the property P139 has alternative form. Yurt, for example, is also known as ger. The general use and the intended function of a vernacular style is expressed by linking the instance of E29 design or procedure to instances of the class E55 type using the property P101 has as general use and P103 was intended for respectively. Mongolian yard, for example, was developed as a year-round residence. The creation now of a vernacular architectural style is expressed through the class E65 creation. To indicate the temporal presence of this style, we link its creation to the class E52 timespan using the property P4 has timespan. The assertion that the style was influenced by the cultural practices of a specific cultural community is modeled by linking the E65 creation class to E7 activity via the property P15 was influenced by and by linking the class E7 activity to the class E74 group using the property P14 carried out by. In the case of Mongolian yard, Mongolian communities, represented as an instance of E74 group, has participated. The creation shaped by their tradition and daily activities. In our data model, the topographical conditions are represented by linking the creation of the style to the class E27 site through the property P8 took place on. These site instances are in turn connected to the class E53 place via the property P53 has current or former location, allowing the special context to be defined. For example, the architectural form of yurt evolved across the steppes, semi-desert and desert of Central Asia within the broader region known as Central Asia. Lastly, the elements of the environmental context of vernacular architecture style are represented in our data model by linking the creation E65 class directly to the class E3 condition state via the property P15 was influenced by. The yurt design, for example, responds directly to the open, windswept topography of the steppe and its extreme climatic variability, particularly semi-arid and desert conditions. Additionally, the class E27 site is connected to the class E3 condition state through the property P54 has condition, capturing the environmental state of the location. In turn, the class E3 condition state is linked to the class E55 type to specify the nature of the type of the condition. Vernacular architectural style displays consistent constructional, morphological, and typological patterns rooted in local traditions, environmental adaptation, and cultural continuity. It employs local materials and traditional techniques, features functionals and climate-responsive forms, and includes recurring building types for domestic, agricultural, or communal use. Decorative elements often reflect local identity. These consistencies support structural integrity, a balanced relationship with the surrounding environment, and a sustained cultural continuity through time and across regions. Here is a data model structured according to CIDOC CRM classes and properties and used to represent and document these consistencies. Techniques, decorations, and patterns used in a specific vernacular style are all modeled as instances of the class E29 design or procedure. These instances are classified with the class E55 and are related to the corresponding style through the property P46 is composed of. In the case an instance of the class E29 design or procedure represents a technique, this instance is connected to a functionality through the property P101 has a general use. Each instance of the class E29 or procedure classified as technique is linked through the property P68 for C's use of to one or more instances of the class E55 material in order to indicate the materials involved in the technique. Furthermore, to document specific characteristics of this material, E55 material class is connected to the class E26 physical feature via the property P130 shows features of. To give you an example, construction of the yard begins with a sturdy rectangular wooden door frame classified as a technique. The door frame constructed from wood and it is expressed by connecting the corresponding instance of E29 design or procedure class with instance wood of the class E55 material through the property P68 for C's use of. This component is lightweight and portable, which is denoted as an instance of the class E26 physical feature, which is connected to the E55 material class with the property P130 shows features of and provides structural stability and orientation. To give you an example of morphological consistencies, a key element of morphological consistency in the interior of a Mongolian yard is the use of patterned woolen felt rugs that is classified as decoration. Relating vernacular architecture styles across different regions reveals a network of shared principles shaped by common environmental challenges, material constraints, and cultural practices, despite variations in format and appearance. Drawing parallels among these styles uncovers patterns in construction techniques, spatial organization, and material usage that transcend geographic boundaries. These relationships are not merely superficial similarities, but arise from deeply embedded principles of adaptation and cultural expression. Moreover, vernacular architecture continues to influence contemporary construction. The modern yurt stands as a prime example of this continuity and reinterpretation in architectural design. In our data model, the above relationships are represented by connecting instances of the class E29 design or procedure via the property P69 has association with, and further qualifying the nature of this association using the property P69.1 has type, which links to an instance of E55 type. This allows the specification of the precise kind of relationship being expressed. In order to represent that a specific vernacular prototype gives rise to another vernacular style, we relate the creation events that created each vernacular style with the property P17 was motivated by reflecting conceptual or stylistic influence, and the property P176I starts after the start of, which establishes a temporal sequence between the two creation events. The Mongolian yurt serves as the prototype for a family of nomadic dwellings across Central Asia. The yurts of Kyrgyz, Kazakhs, and Khitans, also modeled as instances of E29 design or procedure, are associated with this prototype via the property P69 has association with and are classified using the class E55 type as adaptations. Moreover, the creation of the modern Mongolian yurts was motivated and followed the creation of the traditional Mongolian yurt style. Vernacular architecture often exhibits distinctive architectural features that are readily identifiable and closely tied to specific cultural practices. To support the semantic representation of such relationships, this part of the model employs the CRM-BA extension, specifically in the classes B1 build work and B2 morphological building section, both of which are subclasses of E25 physical human-made thing. The B1 build work class represents complete architectural entities whose creation is modeled using the class E12 production. In contrast, the B2 morphological building section class captures discrete components or sections of constructions that embody design principles characteristic of specific vernacular practices. In our example, the Mongolian yard is modeled as an instance of E29 design or procedure class and is associated with a specific constructed example represented by B1 build work. This association is further contextualized through a digital representation that depicts the yard. Additionally, a B2 morphological build section is included to represent a construction component such as the circular tent structure whose production reflects the morphological and structural principles inherent to the Mongolian yurt tradition. A contemporary architectural example influenced by this tradition is the Great Carter Roof of the British Museum. To conclude, the proposed model offers a comprehensive semantic framework for documenting both the tangible and intangible dimensions of architectural heritage. Beyond the Mongolian yurt case study, this framework can be applied to a wide variety of vernacular traditions, enabling comparative and cross-cultural analysis. As part of our ongoing research, we are exploring the applicability of CIDOC CRM in representing intangible cultural heritage within architectural and craft domains. The aim is to capture not only the products of craftsmanship, but also the process of making, the techniques, gestures, and knowledge transmission that define living traditions. Our special focus includes UNESCO-recognized practices such as dry stone wall construction and traditional wall building, both of which exemplify how communities preserve ecological adaptation, craftsmanship, and collective memory through practice. Thank you very much for your attention. We will be happy to discuss further or exchange ideas, so please feel free to contact us anytime. Thank you.